These are your servants, sons and daughters of your servants, who are victims of man inhumanity to fellow human beings. Most of them were killed, they are innocent. They eat and drink in the morning. Some of them are ready to go for their business. Some of them are preparing to go to school. Oh Allah, we pray unto you to restore their soul, to let their soul rest in perfect peace.
Imam Ashafa and Pastor James have come to a mass grave in the town of Yelwa Shandam. They are here to remember and pray for those killed in clashes between Christians and Muslims.
We are grateful to God that we have learned this ability to hear one another and create a safe space to dialogue, without which we will always be assuming things from afar, and you can kill somebody based on assumption. We have learned a bitter lesson.
اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وذكرنا وانثانا اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا انت مولانا والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
In recent decades, Nigeria has been rocked by violence between Christians and Muslims. Tens of thousands of people have been killed in communal clashes. Whole communities have been devastated. One of the flashpoints for conflict was the city of Kaduna. Today, the relationship between the Christian and Muslim communities, which are roughly equal in size, continues to be tense. In the midst of this situation, Imam Muhammad Ashafa and Pastor James Wuye have set up the Christian-Muslim Interfaith Mediation Center.
So, if you are not really looking for him as a person, but our organization, then we could send somebody.
Ashafa and James used to be bitter enemies.
They used to call me coach, a coach like a football coach, because among my peers, I outdrink them. When we go to drink, I take more than they can. Usually I go to church to see the young girls and try to wink at them, particularly those singing in the choir. After winking at the girls at the choir, I then go out to the community where I take my beer. But that day, I stayed on. And the man was preaching. When he started preaching, it was like somebody told him about me. And each time he preached and he was trying to point his hand to the congregation, he was pointing his hand like unto me. And sometimes I duck under the pew to say, wow, why is this man talking to me? I had a conviction in my heart that God was speaking to me and that I need to change. And that was my turning point.
James became a Pentecostal minister and a passionate evangelist. He served as vice president of the Christian Youth Association of Nigeria.
The church has to be in the forefront of preaching peace because Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace. Shall we pray? Ya Allah! ji ina kake lokacin nan.
I came from a very strong religious family. A family that are custodian of Islamic heritage. My father is a spiritual leader, and I grew myself to find myself learning about the Quran and teaching it to a younger one than myself. And I was not even able to go to Western education because my family are families that have a serious struggle with Western colonial authority. They were learned people because they know how to read, how to write in Arabic, how to communicate in this Arabic language. But when the colonial authority come with their own system, they change the language of communications to English. And by changing that to English, that has given the basis for a serious withdrawal in anything to do with the West. So most of our families, we don't go to Western education. We have nothing to do with the West, nothing to do with Europe. We have a zeal of protecting, reviving, a reformatory spirit about bringing back Islam and the glory of Islam. People expect to see us in that. Such was the family I came from.
Allah ka fi mu sanin su. Allah daga gobe zaman da zamu yi gobe. Allah duk wanda ba zai sakanta Allah ka fara tona mishi asiri. Allah ka fara tona mishi.
Nigeria's Muslims and Christians lived in peace until the last quarter of the 20th century, when economic decline, religious extremism, and political turmoil combined to strain communal relations to breaking point. It was against this background in the late 1980s that James decided to join a Christian militia group.
We came from this militia group because we want to protect our people. People were laughing us to scorn that your pastors are being killed and you can't do nothing. We say if the Muslims have spare lives, then we can go borrow it. Or if it is one life, we can also put it online. And that was how I became militia. And my hate for the Muslims then had no limits. And no Muslim ever impressed me for whatever reason. In 1992, during the Zangon Kataf religious crisis, that crisis initially was over relocation of a marketplace. Now, for a long time, the economy of the area was dominated by Muslim Hausa. Conflict ensured there, and most of the people killed there were Muslims and Hausas. Now, the corpses of those people who were killed there were transported to Kaduna, to a place called Tudunwada. And the Muslims there, seeing the corpse of their kings, decided to pounce on the Christians that were there in Tudunwada. And a person, as a trained person to protect the church, my group swung into action. And there are some of the boys that were with me who were killed during that encounter. And I lost my hand in trying to defend the church.
Muhammad Ashafa was in the Muslim militia in Tudunwada.
For 48 hours, we are killing and maiming one another. I was fighting, believing I have to defend my faith, maiming and killing the others. But at the end of the day, my spiritual teacher, a man of about 70 years old, he was murdered by the Christian community in his area. Two of my cousins were killed. And I realized, I come to know that it is James' group, the groups of James, who have organized that militia against my group. So I was nursing, the anger is there, and a motor issue of revenge. I want to take vengeance. And for 3 years, myself and my group were planning to eliminate some of the leaders of these groups. was in the mosque. And the Imam was talking about the power of forgiveness. And he was talking and saying, yes, it is written in the law that you can revenge an evil equal to the evil done to you. You have right to take a redress. However, the Quran teaches further that it is better to turn the evil with that which is good. So therefore, if you are a Muslim today, you refuse to forgive those who persecute you, those who hurt you, how can you be a true embodiment of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He went further to say, remember Muhammad in Mecca. He was persecuted. He was humiliated. He was sent out. And he went to a city of Taif, a city very close, to preach. But they gathered youth to stone him. They sent the youth to stone Muhammad because they don't want to hear his message. They stoned him, blood was flowing all over his body. And the angel came, the angel in charge of mountains and hill, say, oh, you prophet of God, do I destroy these people? What do you want me to do? God say, give me a verdict. I will do whatever you want to do with them because they've harmed you. You are his messenger. And Muhammad opened his mouth to say, no, I don't want them destroyed. Allahumma ghafri ahadi qawmi innahum la ya'lamun. Oh Allah, forgive my own people. And I wept into tears. I was crying. Tears was flowing from my face. How can I forgive this enemy of mine? This guy who maimed, killed my spiritual teacher and two of my brothers? Say, Muhammad has forgiven you. You have to forgive. And he was looking at my direction, talking, as if he knows what I'm thinking in my heart. I was in an ocean of confusion, or an ocean of war between my conscience, my desire for revenge, and the reality of my standard, which is my test. And suddenly, he finishes someone and says, let's pray. We pray. And after that, I started thinking, can I really forgive James?
In May 1995, Ashafa met James unexpectedly at a gathering of community leaders convened at the residence of the governor of Kaduna State. A mutual acquaintance introduced them to one another and challenged them to make peace.
Initially, it was full of suspicion. My fear was that because of my training, he may be planning to identify me and my friends for possible attack when an occasion provides the space for them to do that. If you see his dressing and the way his posture is, you see like an embodiment of an Islamic fundamentalist. We see them as fanatics, as a group that believes Islam only and no other religion. Then my mother took ill. Then he came with some group of young men to greet her, to see her and visit her in the hospital. And then I started changing. I said, wow, how does a Muslim come to greet me as a Christian? Then at a point, my mother then passed on. Then they came again with a team to greet. And that was what broke me, and my resistance to interact with him started falling. I then visited his mosques. Well, it was like I would swallow my heart because I wasn't sure I would come out of the place alive. But gradually I developed confidence, and he too kept coming. And the relationship began to, grow.
The reconciliation between Imam Ashafa and Pastor James caused controversy. They were asked to explain their change of heart to religious groups in the area. But their relationship was still fragile.
Sometimes I was tempted to carry a pillow to suffocate him while he's sleeping when we share rooms. And each time I want to do that, I want to retaliate for my hand. But this force will pull me, thou shalt not kill. For 3 years, I nursed that ambition, that feeling to kill him. But what really removed that from me was when Pastor Ina Amaku of the Family Worship Center in Abuja said, you cannot preach Christ with hate. Christ is love, and the message he's carrying is love. And he said, to you, James, I know you, and I know what you are doing. If you will truly do this work, you must learn to forgive them for every hurt against you or against anyone that you have loved or your loved ones. That broke me, finally. So when I came back, I was anxious to meet Ashafa. It was like a lover looking for his loved one. I was trying to come demonstrate this new insight. So that was my real turning point. That was when I really got into this work.
Over the last 5 years, the work of the Interfaith Mediation Center has been expanding. Teams of pastors and imams journey to trouble spots to lead workshops and seminars.
Okay, let's say this is not a realistic one.
The rapport between Pastor James and Imam Ashafa is the foundation of their trust-building work with religious and community leaders.
I'm not going to have problem with people around me. He said, control your anger, which means anger led to murder. And whoever you kill his brother is going to retaliate. And that leads to genocide, which we witness in our community today. So the concept of anger.
Traveling together as an interfaith team presents its own challenges.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
As a team, you can see the Christian member of the team are waiting in the bus and in the car, and the Muslim community have to go and say their prayer. And when we have to meet on Sunday, the Muslim will wait and the Christian will go to say their prayer, and then they come back, we continue. You can see mutual respect for one another, absolute trust, absolute unselfishness in action.
The mosque at Samaru Kataf has a special significance for Ashafa and James. It was here that they began their work as mediators between Muslim and Christian communities.
During the crisis, this mosque was almost demolished from the tension and attack from the Christian community. We brought the youth here for reconciliation process, both the Christian and the Muslim youth, and we talk reconciliation. Various negotiation of various stakeholders, both from the government, from the other civil society organizations, and our initiatives was able to broker peace within the community.
The team often covers long distances. For Ashafa and James, journeying together has become a part of everyday life.
Well, it is always a very busy period in my office. As you see me today, I have to come with my children. At times they miss me so much. And I have to take a fine way because I travel extensively in the remote area for 2 weeks, for 1 week, trying to negotiate during shuttle mediation within different communities.
This man believe in this group, whatever we're doing, we're placing our creator.
Responsibilities at the Interfaith Center are shouldered equally by Muslims and Christians.
That is what it means.
Some of the team spend time caring for widows and orphans left behind by the conflict.
So the hospital, please. As I know in Islam, that says
blessed is the home that brings up an orphan. So if, you know, a family that is very, very small and has something to offer, can take charge of other less privileged, you know, child, the better for the society.
We cannot do without one another. God in heaven created us and made us to live in the same place. So we have no choice but to live together with one another. So now there is that fear is gradually going, because we are now coming back relating.
Oh, you mankind. The Quran doesn't say only you Muslims. Allah say, oh mankind, yeah, you are nice, all mankind. Then we make you into different color, into different races and languages, so that you may know one another. The essence is for us to know our diversity as sources of strength.
Ashafa and James sometimes travel with their families. The strength of the bond between their wives provides an added dimension to their trust-building work.
At times, if they are out, we are worried at home. We don't know whether they will be back safely or not.
There are 1,001 people that are not ready, that didn't accept what they are doing. They said it's anti-Islam or anti-Christianity. But because of their ignorance about what peace is in the religious aspect, so we help them with prayers whenever they are outside in the field working.
We disagree on certain things, and that disagreement can put us apart for 2-3 days. We are not talking to one another. There were instances where we were asked to present papers. For instance, on death penalty, I said that it should be eradicated. Jesus came to forgive, but he felt death penalty should be instilled in Nigeria. We came from the same organization, but we have different opinion. My colleague's car, Imam Shafa, has now suddenly developed problem with his clutch disc. And look at us somewhere else in the middle of nowhere in the evening. So we hope that we're able to find solution to this problem. Something happened. I can't remember exactly. We were not talking to each other, but we were attending appointments and meetings together. If he has a message, he will write it on a paper and stock it under my room, hotel room. If I have one, I go drop it there. And then we go to the appointment together, take the same taxi to where we want to have the appointment. We laugh when we are there with everybody, and when we come back, no good nights. It seems it's only him. Maybe God is trying to take his hand, because my hand also went off. When we went to mediate people in Nasarawa State, trying to prevent crisis from happening, he fell into a river. That was the greatest fear I had ever had in my life. I thought he was gone. My partner was gone. He fell into a deep river. But God saved him, and we came back, and we have not stopped. We are like a husband and a wife that must not divorce. If we divorce, our children will suffer. And because of our children, which is the global community, the Nigerian youth and Christian and Muslims, we cannot separate.
Thank you.
We develop a system of helping ourselves. When I'm hurt and I know he's hurting me, I will say, Ashafa, I need your help. Then he will quickly know he has hurt me. And he says the same to me. Then I will become alert, and we call that, let's go for some clinic. Then we go to talk to one another. And that way, we are able to resolve our differences for these 10 years. We are stuck together in this. No separation whatsoever. So, that is it.
What's in a hungo? Dikin a hungo. Dikin a hungo. Zoban Virgo. Naimutu and Santi. Garba Agogo. Martin a hungo. Martin a Santi.
Nada de asanki. Bata makariki. Zota Hogarin Zozo.
In 2001, James and Ashafa brought together prominent religious leaders in Kaduna to work on a joint peace agreement. After months of discussion, a historic declaration was signed by 11 Muslim and 11 Christian leaders and by the governor of Kaduna State. A plaque was unveiled by the President of Nigeria.
The 22 people who signed the peace declaration went to monitor elections. And during that time, all the places where they monitored, there was no rigging, there was no violence. It was as if God was represented in those polling stations.
In Kaduna State of Nigeria, when there's a problem, the Christian Ecumenical Center leadership won't be able to communicate with the Muslim Ecumenical Center. And they talk. And then they sort out the truth among themselves. So many things that will have led to shedding blood today have been protected by the two wings.
In Kaduna, people are rebuilding their lives. But old wounds can be reopened by local and even international incidents.
If something happened in Iraq, why is it affecting us? If something happened in Guantanamo Bay or in Afghanistan or in Palestine, why is it affecting the Muslim in Nigeria? Why do we react so positive or extremely negative at times? Because of the level of consciousness of Islam. Because we see ourselves as a single global community, most the Ummah.
Ashafa and James have been invited to speak at international gatherings on conflict resolution and development. Their story of forgiveness and the strength of their partnership has stirred debate and fostered hope.
How are we going to make Nigeria safe? Nigeria safe for all.
In 2004, clashes between Christians and Muslims from different ethnic groups erupted in the town of Yelwa Shandam. The spate of killings was furious and terrible. Hundreds of corpses had to be buried without proper ceremony in mass graves. James and Ashafa decided to focus their energy on a bid to bring healing to Yelwa Shandam. They made 17 separate visits to the area, sharing their own experience, mediating, preaching peace.
But you should share their joy, their sadness. You create joy for them.
Little by little, apologies were shared. Trust was rebuilt. And the idea emerged to hold a festival in which former enemies could come together in a celebration of peace. Different communities arrive at the ceremony with their respective dance troupes. Ashafa and James have been working for 5 months with Muslim and Christian leaders to hammer out a peace affirmation. As they make final arrangements for the imminent ceremony, Ashafa and James need to muster all their resources of improvisation and faith. The crowds are exuberant, but the situation is still volatile, and the security forces are taking no chances. The high drama of the festival attracts local and international media attention.
A lot of them lost their loved ones. How have you been able to make them see reason that the life ahead is much more than what happened in the past?
Well, we have been able to show us examples because we used to be militias. We told them we lost our loved ones. As you can see or you can hear, I've lost a hand in one of the crises in '92 in Kaduna. And with this behind our minds, we are able to tell them that we empathize with their situation, but it is better to dialogue with people than to deal with people. In dealing with people, you also live in fear, you also live in unforgiveness, and every day you are not sure what will happen the next day. But when you dialogue, when you talk, and when you forgive, you have peace. So we feel in forgiveness there is strength. You are stronger when you forgive somebody who is against you.
I witnessed this day as most of the happiest day in my life because it comes to an end of the bloodshed in the town.
I lost my father, my brother and my sister. I am just staying with my relatives. I really appreciate the way how I see people gathering all here, both Muslim and Christian. We gathered here to ask for to share ideas together and even dance together. We are all one.
The crowds, who are joined by political and religious leaders, wait for the arrival of the governor of Plateau State.
The executive governor of Plateau State, Honorable Chief Joshua Darie, has instructed me to tell the Yelwa community to read their letter of apology on behalf of everybody.
Permit me to use this occasion to deliver our apology letter on behalf of the Jarawa, on behalf of the two ruling houses of the Jarawa and Yelwa community in Yelwa town.
The paramount chief of the Gamai people accepts the apology.
From the bottom of my heart, I forgive everybody who has done anything wrong to me.
Representatives of different communities address the crowds.
I want to make it very clear here that what happened here, as far as I am concerned, the issue of religion was far, far secondary. We have come back here to embrace ourselves in that old spirit and to live here together once more as brothers and sisters. I call upon all of them concerned.
It is time for Muslims and Christians to go back to the original teachings of their religions, because we, the preachers, we mislead you. I'm sorry. In most cases, we preach violence instead of us to preach peace. That's the problem. So we must go back to the real teachings of our religion. Let me tell you.
So we now have a 2 minutes of silence. Everybody should pray to Almighty in the best way you can pray to Him, in His own mother language, so that at the end, that we will come back here to celebrate peace and not violence anymore.
It's now my singular honor and pleasure to cut this tape and to unveil the plaque as a commitment to peace and enduring settlement together. God bless. The example of peace. Let me do one photograph with you.
Bishop, put it, yeah.
We are confident that with all that has been put in, today will mark the beginning of lasting and sustainable peace among the Christians and the Muslims and the peoples of different ethnic groups within this area.
Creating peace between Christians and Muslims is a challenge. For Pastor James and Imam Ashafa and others in Nigeria, the work continues.
Preaching Christ does not really mean verbalizing it. You can live it. And I believe by living a Christian life, I can influence people positively without saying it out.
Every person who pronounces La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, anybody who pronounces the kalima, who pronounces to be Muslims, I want him to be a safe haven for people around the world who are from other faiths and traditions.
I practice my faith vehemently, and he does too. And we are still coexisting and living together. Yes, Christianity and Islam can coexist side by side, and people will still go to the heaven they dream of. This is true.
Even though we differ in some theological issues, we will make the world a safer place. I'm a Muslim cleric, having thousands of people behind me. I never compromise the principle of Islam. But Islam says create a space for others. And with this as a living example, even though he's not a Muslim, I like him. I can give my life to protect his honor and dignity. This is what Islam taught me to do. And I live by that principles. And I will live for it and die for it.
I love him because I'm told to love my neighbor as myself. I live by that principle.
Wow, ku ñëpp du fi da ngay tooy gaañi muy du leen seen jëfi tey daal mooy seen jëwu ëllëg lii de wóor na ma sama gént gi yee na ma si àdduna su ma xoolee suma ginnaaw sama xol jeex ma jooyo su ma xoolee suma ginnaaw sama xol jeex